Just a quick word about Annie Fryman, who I really appreciate coming on. Uh, uh, for one thing, I recently learned that she has the best LinkedIn page that I've ever seen. I mean, absolutely no question. And I just copied a little bit of it into the speaker guide. Basically, an ex-designer leaves architecture, tackle the laws that govern the built environment and systems that shape it, and really focusing on decisions made during planning and construction and the impacts that they have, and how that involves meaningful access to economic opportunity. I mean, number of ways there. I mean, it's basically how wealth is created in post-World War II America, and but also how we interact with strangers and loved ones, how reliably we feel secure and joyful. You know, safe as houses, that kind of expression. But and so, in addition to architecture and planning, law and finance are systems with deep influence shaping these decisions. All of these are central to Annie's work. She joined Abodu in February 2021. But before that, she, for 4 years, had four probably long years, dog years, kind of leading housing, land use, and transportation policy for Senator Scott Wiener, who is a factory as far as coming up with legislation. So those are 4 tough years. And then, of course, she finishes her LinkedIn thing with saying before all this, she wanted to be a painter, a writer, or a spy. So with that, I mean, there's much more. I wish I could fit it all, but you'll just have to go to the LinkedIn site and see. But I will. I'm going to take my leave and turn it over to you, and all the stuff that encompasses your work.
Terrific. Thank you so much, Dennis. Yeah, lots to cover today. And thanks everyone for joining us at Sustainapalooza. This is my first time speaking here, so I am very excited. I'm going to quickly share my screen. I've got a short presentation, and then I think that we're going to be doing a Q&A toward the end. So I'm going to try to speed through this. But just to kick things off, so I work for a company based in the Bay Area called Abodu, and we build accessory dwelling units. You've probably read in the news, particularly folks based in the Bay Area over the last 5 years or so, about the significant uprise in essentially ways that we're trying to add density, particularly housing density, to our suburbs in particular. So in communities that have been historically single family, lower density, but developed, what are ways that we can create opportunities for different types of housing options so folks can live close to their families, close to good school districts, have access to places with good air quality, even if they cannot afford a 3, 4, 5,000 square foot single family home on a half-acre lot. And backyard homes are one of the many things that are in that patchwork of solutions to make this possible. As you can see here on this just cover slide, this is a 1-bedroom Abodu being actually craned over a home in a Bay Area suburb into someone's backyard. And so you go all of a sudden from having 1 unit of housing on a lot to 2 units of housing on a lot, in some cases 3. And this doesn't seem like a lot, but if you think of how many properties, right, are on a 4-sided block, imagine that entire area doubling in housing density without significantly looking different, right? That's about as much housing as adding an apartment building onto a corner. But having this kind of almost invisible gentle density added to everyone's backyard. And in some cases, making it such that the person who's able to live in that backyard is not commuting in their car 30 miles, 60 miles, 100 miles into a job center, but rather can live close to where they work, close to the community that they are embedded in, and contributing a significantly smaller carbon footprint and pollution into our environment. So On to the next slide, just as a little bit of an intro. So we build well-designed and factory-built accessory dwelling units. Accessory dwelling units, like I said, are small backyard homes in particular that can be added to single-family properties. And interestingly enough, Abodu manages the entire ADU process for homeowners. And so they can actually just offload all of that onto us. That means everything from permitting to construction management, to the installation, to the post-installation warranties, to helping coach through design choices along the way. And this is all in service of our mission to make adding an ADU painless, simple, and transparent, given in particular that most of the folks that stand to benefit the most from adding an ADU to their property and contributing their small part in adding density to our housing constrained areas are not professional developers. They're not professional architects. They're not professional permit expediters or contractors. They are just normal people who have never done this before and will probably only need to do this once in their life. And so we let them offload all of the need for practice and trial and error onto us and to our team, such that they can have just a really simple, straightforward, elegant process in building that ADU. And we are not a custom designer. We're not a site build general contractor. So someone who designs something custom specifically for your property and then goes to build that just once. We don't convert garages, and we do not build your primary home. So we've really tried to center in on this very specific niche that is, how do we increase housing density, increase housing options, increase housing affordability, and increase access to people living sustainably near their communities and their workplaces by occupying this narrow space of building backyard homes in a way that is sustainable and streamlined through local and state policy here in California. Here are the 3 different units that we offer. And as you can see, most of why I point this out is just so you can understand that you can have sustainability by having a really, really small footprint of living space. But as you'll see in the following slides, really beautiful and spacious interiors, even as it's highly water efficient, highly energy efficient, and not just within that 3D superstructure being climate friendly, but also the 100 miles that some people have to drive to commute to and from their workplace or other things that they need to do during the day, those vehicle miles traveled also impacts someone's sustainability of their life and their family's footprint. And by having more flexibility that bypasses some of our local zoning laws, we make it such that not only can you live in a climate friendly and energy efficient home in terms of your daily use of the consumption within the home, but also that your general lifestyle and habits can be more climate friendly as well. We offer a 340 square foot studio unit, a 500 square foot Abodu one bedroom, and a 610 foot 2-bedroom unit. And here are some photos of the interiors of these. And I mostly show these again, less as a kind of marketing pitch and more just so folks can understand the connection between small and sustainable and efficient living, and also that you don't need to make a ton of compromises in terms of aesthetics, architectural design, and quality of construction in order to do that, right? We don't need to live in some crappy cardboard shed in the backyard just to live in a small living space. We can live in a modern, new construction structure while meaningfully minimizing our carbon footprint, our commute habits, and our water and energy efficiency, given the efficiency of new construction, particularly in small homes. Here's just another look at our 1-bedroom unit. This is actually from a unit we installed. You'll be able to see the yard on the side off to the left, and 2-bedroom as well. So like I said, very modern, lots of light. These units are all optimized to be climate friendly in terms of, like I said, not just their ability to be located in suburbs that folks normally have to commute through, but also compliant with the highest modern construction standards when it comes to, again, water and energy use. In addition to things like you'll see these beautiful, enormous windows, good circulation, things that make it such that our habits don't need to be as high consumption as they do in many cases in old construction. One of the neat things also that Abodu does, and I think that again, this ties to sustainability in just, we know that folks will be more motivated to build an ADU and play their small part in densifying suburbs close to job centers if it is easy and fast. Abodu, in strong contrast to a lot of our competitors, we can actually, in many jurisdictions, get you a unit from you have your permit to you have the keys in your backyard in as little as 1 month. In some cases, San Jose is a particularly strong example of this. You can go from contract signed to keys in your hand in 1 month. And that is made possible through these really, really forward-looking permitting programs that the city leadership, in particular the mayor's office and the building department, have championed. Another thing that makes this possible is that we can do off-site construction. And this both helps with the speed at which units can get built, but also the predictability of them getting on site, and also the sustainability of those habits, because those almost assembly lines can be centralized and can have the economies of scale that come with sourcing sustainable materials, that come with efficient manufacturing practices, right? So you're not just doing a one-off project at every turn when it comes to being able to cut corners on sustainability, energy use, et cetera. We operate, and we're growing very quickly, but we actually build ADUs in places where those local governments have made it clear that they want more ADUs. And that seems a little bit like oh, hold on one moment. Had a little problem here. To pick back up, this seems like very logical, but I want to point out in particular the speed at which not just Abodu necessarily as one player in this industry, but all over the country, we are seeing more and more and more cities and states take control over not just how do we build infill housing next to transit in a downtown city center, but also, as long as there's going to be housing demand and jobs in some of these outer areas, how are we also contributing to housing solutions in single family communities that are lower density residential, but not greenfield, right? And so how do we retrofit the suburbs? You'll see here that we've already gotten a foothold as our business in the Bay Area, in Monterey and Santa Cruz, in Southern California, LA, Orange County, and San Diego, and also in the Pacific Northwest and Seattle. And we know that there are so many other jurisdictions and policy frameworks around the country that are looking to ADUs and to factory-built housing as a core tenet of their sustainable housing solutions, especially with an eye towards affordability, access, and ease. I'm going to skip through that slide. One thing that also I just wanted to touch on before we speed through to questions is one of the neat things that comes with utilizing factory-built construction, in addition to the sustainability element, is just how you can really clear the path and pave the way to make adding density in suburbs in a way that we know is more climate friendly, less intimidating, less frankly, socially and politically offensive for folks, as much as I disagree with that, by tearing away and pulling away at some of the arguments, for example, that construction is invasive, construction is disruptive, construction is noisy, construction is unpredictable. And the way that Abodu has actually put together our products and our offerings is that we actually sync up the permitting schedule with the manufacturing schedule with the on-site construction schedule, such that we can ensure that only 10 days before your unit is installed by a crane into your backyard and you have your keys in hand ready for final inspection, there's only 10 days of a crew being in your backyard doing all of the work necessary to pour the foundation, to get your utility hookups ready, and to do all of the things that make it so that on installation day, we have a crane. We spend half a day doing top to bottom, beginning to end, everything getting readied, crews on site, crane lifts your unit up and over your home, puts it in the backyard, and we secure everything, and you are on track to get ready for final inspection. And that's, I think, a really important point. Again, in this second degree sustainability way that one of the biggest barriers to us having increased density in particularly some of these suburban areas that ADUs proliferate most is the social and political pushback to new housing. And so the more that we can creatively show that there is a way to have new housing and new construction be non-invasive, the more we will have a foothold for building more ADUs, getting more housing density, and having more affordable options for folks of all different types to live in high opportunity neighborhoods and close to their jobs. I guess one other last thing that I wanted to show very quickly, if I still have a little bit of battery, I wanted to actually show a video of an Abodu project. If I can get to it here, maybe not. I thought we had a link here. I take that all back, excuse me. But yeah, I think in final takeaway, the big thing here is that by having a product and an offering that is really has an eye towards the opportunities made available through policy and looking at what are the places that are most neglected by solutions to our housing affordability crisis and our exploding carbon footprint and VMT that comes from people not having affordable options to live close to where they work. We've been able to create a solution that helps permitting departments save time, that helps homeowners save time, that helps builders save time, and really makes it possible to get more quality, high efficiency, climate friendly housing units in the ground much faster than folks have been able to in the past. And, you know, again, one last thing in conclusion that I will reiterate is that we know for a fact that the biggest barriers to homeowners pursuing building an ADU, even if they can afford it and have all of those boxes checked, is the unpredictability of construction, the unpredictability of permitting, and the uncertainty of all of the scheduling that goes into that. And so by being able to help a homeowner offload those services, and give closer and stronger guarantees that these things will not need to be trial and errored by you on your first and last time you'll ever do this task of getting a permit, finding a contractor, any of those things, and we can take that on. We know that that gives homeowners so much more security to choose to build an ADU in the backyard, which we know is going to be a very, very central tenet to increasing the sustainability of our housing footprints in the United States, given how widespread this medium to low density suburban typology is throughout American cities. And with that, I will hand it over to Dennis for questions. We cut that a little bit short, but I know that the Sustainapalooza is running a little bit late. I will stop there and
yeah, okay. Let's what happened to me here? There. I was just trying to come back. There, I'm back. Yes, thank you, Annie. I mean, it's pretty incredible to, you know, just as far as, you know, on the product side, and then, but also on the policy side, and it's. Yeah, it just seems kind of a very smart way to go. I recognize those neighborhoods in San Jose with the big tall palm trees, mm-hmm. You know, and I mean, they have great houses actually, you know, nice kind of bungalow kind of things, but yeah, they could use a nice shiny new, you know, pod there. It just, so there are some actually there are some questions more on the kind of on the practical side. Here's one question actually from Bruce Nagel. Are the homes all electric?
Yes, they are. So our homes are all electric, fully electric appliances. We do additionally offer, and in some cases are required to actually have rooftop solar on these units. That's a California building code requirement for new construction, in particular ADUs. And so we comply with that fully. And so not only are the homes all electric, but in many cases, they also have solar panels on the roof that are connected in that way. And it's interesting because the factory built homes are a separate building code from traditional construction, but actually meet just as high, if not higher, sustainability standards than traditional construction in California. And so I think there's somewhat of a misnomer or misclassification in the stereotype that folks have about factory built construction, that it might be lower quality or less sustainable than site built. But I am here to firmly debunk that and let folks know that we meet all the most modern Title 24 requirements, solar requirements, as well as have an eye towards, high efficiency appliances. And in conclusion, yes, all electric as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it actually, that reminded me of, we're just in the Valley Water session and we're talking about, advanced water treatment and things, and if there are a few people left who are, can't get over the fact of where that water's reused, and it's in terms of the filtration, it's kind of like that too. Anybody who's done work, well, I mean, comparing something built in a factory and then something built in the weather on site, two totally different things, and you would have probably the people that build on site, as right away just saying, oh yeah, this is there's less variables here.
Yeah, and I think as well, pulling back, I guess, a little bit to my professional and career experience back as an architect, I also know just that, there is a carbon sink, of course, whenever you do some kind of new construction, right? Because you're putting all of the energy and labor and effort into building something that did not exist before. But over the life cycle of a building, the efficiency, particularly of electricity, but also water, of new construction over old construction is night and day. Everything from double painting your windows to better insulation through your walls to higher efficiency fixtures to, even things like solar panels. You can have the exact same or higher quality of life and lifestyle and seemingly demand on your appliances and on the grid, but because of the efficiency and also the high quality of that construction that has not kind of decayed over time and is likely to age better than what we've had in the past, I guarantee that someone living exactly as comfortably as I do in my 1920s rent-controlled apartment in San Francisco probably has a half, a third, a quarter the footprint that I do, just by nature of the structure itself and independent of the habits of that individual household.
Oh, right. No, much tighter wrap. I mean, it's so I was curious, the homes are all electric. Is there a lot of pushback on induction?
Not that I have seen and heard from customers. I think generally speaking, folks who are seeking to pursue new construction, especially with a market as concentrated in California and in the Bay Area as we have just as our customer base, I think folks are understanding that that is where the gravity is headed, whether you're heading there fast or slow. And so most folks come in pretty ready, I would say, to accept, induction. And I also just know that, independent of your footprint, there's also something to be said for indoor air quality when it comes to induction over gas as well. We have a lot of customers with, elderly family members living in there, or young children who, they're a young family or they're looking to transition at some point. And so I think on top of the electrical footprint and carbon footprint component of it, there is an eye toward the benefits to indoor air quality as well.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting to see sometimes. I'll see these tiny homes, on, YouTube has been a real, friend, for different, it's been mentioned a few times, just even with do-it-yourself stuff, but they obviously have this huge store of people doing tiny homes around the world. I mean, a lot of them actually New Zealand, but to have, they'll have propane or some kind of gas hookup, and it just seems like not a good idea. I mean, it's never a good idea from an air quality standpoint, but yikes. Anyway, the second question is an interesting one. Have you done much as far as units that are located on rented land, like in a manufactured home park? I mean, do you have to add wheels?
It's a really good question. So, this is an important but very narrow, subtle nuance. There's actually two different types of manufactured or factory built home codes that you can apply for in the US. One is the federal manufactured home code that has its original legacy in mobile homes, right? And so it's the way that we federally regulated mobile homes, mobile home parks. You have either on wheels or on a steel chassis that you can sort of, transport that singular unit, whether you intend to or not. And then there are the state modular factory built housing codes that are actually on a concrete foundation. So it's the unit is manufactured, but you're actually on a concrete foundation the exact same way that a permanent, custom built structure would be. As to the parts of the question about being on rented land, so I would say that Abodu is generally agnostic in terms of what exactly the legal framework that someone puts one of our units on is. We will serve the customer base that we can serve. However, accessory dwelling units in California, we only permit units through the accessory dwelling unit code as it comes to planning approvals. I have not yet done any permitting for units in a mobile home park. And so I can't say that we have experience with that. I do know for a fact that the types of financing that are available to you, whether you are using the structure for a mobile home park versus for permanent, like real property, there's just different financing options available, as well as the planning approvals for accessory dwelling units make it such that the accessory dwelling unit cannot be owned separately from the primary home. And so the use case for an ADU is that you have a single family home, usually in most cases, though can be multifamily. And then this unit is sort of secondary or accessory to that primary home. And so speaking a little bit off the cuff, I would predict that you might have some permitting problems when it comes to building in a mobile home park, just because you're not necessarily keying off a primary permanent structure. But if there are a creative, exceptional situation where that were the case, Abodu does not, discriminate based on what kind of property we're in, as long as we can kind of meet the criteria of where our expertise applies.
Yeah, and so yeah, that certainly makes sense. I did want to read something from Hafsa Burt, who's an architect, saying that they're coming across a very educated client base requesting all electric in California and specifically the Bay Area. So they've basically their experience has been with aware clients on that thing, and there's certainly a number of people even on this particular call that have been working on induction and kind of trying to overcome those objections. As a matter of fact, Diane Bailey is coming up next with some breaking news. When news breaks, we fix it. So anyway, that's yeah, and she's been obviously very involved in all electric things. What are there? So Abodu has a showroom in Redwood City on El Camino, just south of Woodside.
Yes, yeah, we are right directly across the street from the Target on El Camino. If you're
familiar. So that's a landmark for you, and so I do look forward to visiting
Please,
soon, and just love certainly the idea and the execution, and it must make the neighborhood's year to have the crane lift happen.
Yeah, it is a blast. And I will actually send, I know I couldn't show it in my presentation, but I will send a link to the group. We actually have a really neat video channel where we put a lot of material from different installs that we've had. And so if anyone wants to kind of scan through the various installation days that we've had, it kind of turns into this incredible block party in so many of these neighborhoods, lots of like kids, families, field trips, something that all of a sudden is making construction day and housing density a positive novelty in these neighborhoods rather than a nuisance to be squashed. So yeah, I will leave it at that and hand it off to the next speaker.
Well, great. Thank you so much for for doing this, and certainly look forward to hearing more. I know there's a lot of expansion going on around the state.
There is, yeah.
And,
Yeah, I look forward to hearing from you all. Thank you.
okay. Well,
All
thank you.
right, bye-bye.
Bye.